Welcome back. It's Terry with Terry's Mailbox, and today I'm posting a new tag for the Funkie Junkie Boutique. So here is the close-up of the tag, and you can see that I used many techniques from ink smooshing, embossing, die cutting, just really had a great time with this. So what I'm doing is I'm using this mini etc. tag. I've got watercolor cardstock that is die cut to the appropriate size, and you can see I embossed it with the pine branches. And I'm going to go ahead and color the pine branches later on with using my new distress pencils, using like rustic wilderness and vintage photo, etc. So after I embossed the piece, I went ahead and set it up in my MISTI, and I'm going to go ahead and emboss several of the retro snowflakes on here. So again, I'm just going to emboss it in clear embossing powder so that the white watercolor paper shows through. So again, I'm just kind of working on spreading the wow embossing powder. And the next thing I did once that was all taken care of is I started adding the color in the background. So I used weathered wood, stormy sky, kind of some of the darker bluish colors that look like a stormy sky. So again, I'm adding a lot of water so that I make sure all the nooks and crannies in the embossing folder are coated. So I'm just kind of still working here. And then in the end, I decided I needed to add additional ink because I really wanted those snowflakes to pop. So I went ahead, after I'm done here embossing, I'm going to add another layer of the weathered wood and the stormy sky to kind of get more drips and, additional color in that background. So again, just still dipping and drying. It's just a process. That's what I love about distress inks is, you can kind of start, and if you're not happy, you can add, you can change the color, you can add more layers. And again, that just kind of adds to the texture of the background, which I love. So again, I'm just completing drying it off here. And after I did this step is when I went ahead and colored my pine branches. So you'll see that in a little bit. I used my distress watercolor pencils and just kind of drew them along the edges and took a water brush and just kind of spread them out a little bit. So here's where I'm working on the houses. So I've got I needed the front and two sides, so I've cut that out. I often use Kleenex boxes, etc. to do that, and you can see that I gessoed them white because that helped my embossing glaze and my paint to adhere better. So again, here's that background. You can see those pine branches and how those really pop out after using the watercolor pencils. So what I'm going to do is I'm kind of playing with my arrangement here. And so you can see I've trimmed the sides down. And I also created a shelf using just chipboard. So again, you can see that top layer is larger than the other two, and the shortest one is actually the one that I'm going to hot glue to the tag. So again, here just playing with my houses. And I've got the roof sitting there. So I've got collage medium, and the next thing I need to do is actually attach that watercolor piece to the background. So again, this obviously I'm about out of collage medium here. Gonna need to order some more. So again, I'm making sure the tag is completely covered. Just kind of adding a little more for extra measure. And then I'll go ahead and pick up that watercolor piece and line it up and push it down. And then what I often do is turn it over so that it's watercolor cardstock first, then the tag, and then I'll set something heavy on it to make sure that it dries well. So the next thing I'm doing is I've grabbed my my trees from Tree Lot here, and I'm just using distress spray. I mean, it's so easy just to do this. So again, I'm just kind of hitting them with both Rustic Wilderness Distress ink and oxides, and I've got it in a box to kind of contain because I really don't want the spray all over my craft table. So again, just kind of adding the color here, and then I'll go ahead and set them up and hit them from the top so that, again, I make sure that I get, you know, that they're well colored. So there we go. We'll stand them up. And I often just use the paper towels, and when they get messy, I pitch them. So again, here's that tag, you know, kind of the base that we're starting with. I always like to add a little bit of interest to the edges, be it stitching on the sewing machine, adding just ink blending. So here I'm just using Uncharted Mariner because, again, it's a really nice dark blue color. And I'm using just actually the foam disc that I would normally put on a blending tool. But again, when I'm doing it this way, I can just grab the foam disc. And then we'll go ahead and set that aside. So I used my hot glue gun to attach the two houses and that shelf, and now I'm kind of playing with the roofs. And because the roofs are set up to be on a complete three-dimensional house, and I'm only doing the front 1/4 inch, I had to trim that roof a little bit. And so again, I'll kind of push the edges down here and then get my hot glue gun out. And I'm just going to run it along the edges here. I could have used collage medium, but again, hot glue gun cures quickly, and so you can kind of move on. And when you're working with paper, it's a really good substance to attach it to. So again, here I'm just going to trim the back section of this roof off to a 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to go ahead and fold it down, actually. And that's because I didn't want the hot glue gun to pop out of the front of the, or the top of the roof. So again, I'm going to put that one side on there, and then I'm just going to hold it for a sec. And then we'll go ahead and hit the edges of the house with the hot glue gun. So there I am, just kind of holding the roof down. So we'll just kind of hold it down here. And then my tree is going to go right there in the middle. So the next thing I did was I pulled out my Snowfall grit paste and a palette. You can see I use the press and seal over the top, as Tim recommends. When it's one of your products that you don't use often, they may dry out. I don't worry about that with my collage medium because I pull that out a whole lot. So again, I'm just kind of using my palette here or palette knife to go ahead and stick the additional Snowfall grit paste on there. And we'll just kind of fill it in. The center needs to be somewhat flat because that's where my trees go, but I wanted it kind of piled up around the houses. And then I also added some to the edges of the roof, you know, because again, the snow gets caught on the roof. And so I just kind of added some there. And then I did end up grabbing my glitter duster with rock candy glitter in it and kind of spritzing it over the top. You know, again, if you've got snow, it needs to be kind of sparkly and shiny and white. Just kind of gives it more dimension and just looks more like snow. So again, here I'm just kind of finishing up my house. I love using these little house guys on, you know, on tags. It's just kind of fun. So now we need to hit the top. Just a little bit of snow there. So we'll just kind of add it in. And so there's my glitter duster, and I'm just gonna, you know, spritz it on the top there. You can see I've already glued the little snowflakes from the twig and stump into that background. Next time we show the background. So the next thing I did was I wanted to add mica flakes to the trees for additional snow. So I just kind of took my collage medium and took my palette brush and just kind of ran it along the side of the trees. I thought that worked out really well. This is probably the best way that I've found to get glue on the trees if you're trying to add glitter to them. And I was really only worried about doing the front because, again, the back is going to be glued against that tag. So I wasn't too concerned about having the mica flakes all the way around. So again, here I am just palette knifing it, and then we'll go ahead and throw the mica on there for the snowflakes. And then we'll set those aside to dry. So again, there's my mica flaked trees. Next thing I did was I did the quote chip, and again I've got my embossing dauber there, and I'm using Rustic Wilderness Embossing Glaze. I love this glaze. I use this a lot when I'm doing tags and want to just kind of add a sentiment, because again the glaze, even when you're using the darker color, it's translucent, so you truly don't see a lot in it. And so again, I just run it on the paper, and then I'm putting it back in the jar because I don't want embossing glaze all over my craft table. So the next thing I'm going to do is just kind of get a hold of it, and you can see there that some knocked off, so I had to kind of go back and add a little bit more. And so then we'll go ahead and use the heat gun. And again, it's a great, adds great translucent color to this thing. I just really, just really like the way this works. So again, hot glue gun's out. I'm going to go ahead and just add some to the back. And go ahead and stick it there on the bottom. And then of course I need to add my trees, so I put the bigger one towards the back. And then I found room to stick the little one there, right in the side. I'm kind of trying to decide where I'm going to put it, and I ended up putting it right there in the front. So again, my tag is actually complete. So I'm very happy with this one. This one's just kind of a nice wintry, snowy tag. So again, here's the photo again, the finished product. And again, it's Terry with Terry's Mailbox.